Phase one was the hypnotism. That's how they sedate you. Phase two is this. Mental preparation. It's basically a psychological pre-op.
Pre-op.
For phase three, the transplantation.
Okay, ready to go. Let's go.
Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. This is Wait, You Haven't Seen? It's a show where we talk about movies, and specifically, we talk about a movie at least one of us has never seen before. I'm your host, Travis, aka TV's Travis. This is episode number 238, and the movie this week, as we continue Spooktober, was Get Out from 2017. And joining me, as they are all month, it's the crew from Gore, the wicked kitten always getting into trouble, Monica.
Hi, I'm Wicked. How are you?
All right, Stepford Wicked. Also joining us is the wonderful Fae.
Hi.
And from an undisclosed location, it's Dread.
Well, hello, everyone.
All right, so Get Out, written and directed by Jordan Peele. I had not seen this before. I want to go around and find out who the rest of the three of you had seen it, starting with Faye. Had you seen this before?
Yes.
Okay.
I saw it back in 2017.
So did you see it in theaters or?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Just when it released.
Gotcha. Dread, how about you? Had you seen this one before?
Well, technically I have, but I've only seen it like a couple of months ago for the first time.
Okay. So fairly recently.
Kinda.
And Wicked, how about you?
I've seen this probably about 5 or 6 times, but I did not watch it in the theater. Shortly after on television, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Remember television?
Ah, yes. So none of us had seen this in the theater. So I vaguely remember this coming out in theaters. It was popular. It did well, but for some reason, like, its original theatrical run just sort of passed me by. I think it was released in February, which may have been part of it.
Yeah, not a fun time for us.
No, not really. And so, like, I just sort of got out of sight, out of mind, and then I found out later on, Jordan Peele made a horror movie. And after that, I'd heard of, and I saw trailers for like Us and his other movies that he had made, but I just never got around to watching this. And I mean, was that sort of the same for everybody else? Did the theatrical run? Did you know about it ahead of time? Wicked, like, was it something that you knew was coming out and you just weren't going to the movies, so you didn't go see, or we're just gonna wait?
I'm not like I wasn't. I'm not like you guys. You guys seem to go to the movies a lot. I rarely really went. Maybe like once a month, or I'd go to see the Fathom things when there would be like old movies in the theater. So it's not like I regularly went to the movies anyway. I usually wait until it's streaming or something because I'm cheap.
That's fair. Dread, how about you? Was this one that just like slipped you by, or?
I've heard of it, like when it came out, but then I also read the synopsis, and it was not something that I was interested in, I guess. So I kind of like skipped it. And then the sequel, well, not the sequel, his second movie. Shut up.
Sorry.
It's late. Us came out, same thing. Like the thing didn't speak to me, so I kind of didn't think about watching the first one because meh. But then someone forced me to watch them.
Yes.
And yeah.
Okay.
Spoiler: I like them a lot.
Yeah, and it was one of those where I'm kind of mad at myself for waiting 5 years plus to see this movie because I really liked it. It is hard to believe this is a feature directorial debut from anyone at all. Like, it's that good of a movie. And I've seen some really good feature debuts in the last couple of years that have kind of blown my mind. The first one that comes to mind for me is Hereditary as a debut feature, was such a well-crafted movie. And for this to be somebody's first film, and then on top of that, and look, I understand that, you know, creators can work in all sorts of different genres, but Jordan Peele was not known for horror at all, really. He was a straight comedy guy, and for him to write and direct this, phenomenal. For anybody to do that, for somebody, for it to be their first movie, is really good. And then I read that he started this script in like 2009 or so, was when he first started writing it. And from what he was saying in an interview, he didn't write this as, I want to make a movie out of this script. It was more of, he started writing this screenplay as kind of a catharsis and sort of a, almost like a therapeutic thing, because it was right after the election of Obama, and he was hearing all sorts of people, mostly people that have no business even saying things, that, you know, racism is over, right? Because we elected a black president, and that's it. That did it. It got rid of racism, which of course is horse shit. But
Fixed.
yeah. But he started writing this to also work through some of his own stuff. And so it kind of works in a way like it wasn't meant to be a project to make into a movie. But then years later, he sort of decided, you know what, this is probably the right time to make this movie. And I think that's cool, because there you can feel the kind of personal weight in this script. Go ahead, Faye.
No, I was agreeing.
Oh, okay. And so I just think that that's a very, very interesting part of it. And then on top of that, for him to cast, this cast is amazing. And it's always the sign to me of a good director, not just to get good performances from good actors, but to get good performances across the board. Like none of your actors are phoning anything in. They all seem like they're on the same page, and everything in your movie is clicking. To me, that's a really good director. And boy, did he have that going with this cast. This cast is incredible. And it's a shame that Daniel Kaluuya, I think is how you pronounce it, right?
Yeah, Kaluuya.
Yeah. It's a shame that he wasn't able to win the Academy Award, but he did get nominated for it. He was up against Daniel Day-Lewis, Denzel Washington, Gary Oldman, and Timothy Chalamet. So some pretty acting heavyweights going after the Oscar that year. But he is so good in this.
Yeah.
How familiar were you with him prior to seeing this, Wicked?
Didn't know him at all.
Okay. How about, and either Dread or Faye, were you familiar with Daniel Kaluuya at all prior to this movie?
No.
If you're gonna tell me what he was in, maybe I'll be like, I seen that, but I would not remember him, or no.
Previous to this movie, I can't remember him from the Black Panther. He was in that.
Oh.
Was that before this?
No, Black Panther was the next year, 2018.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
And that's the thing that I remember him from the most.
Because you said previously, that's why I'm like, no, I don't remember him from anything before this.
No, previous to
But go ahead.
this, he had been in Johnny English, I think. Or Johnny English Reborn.
I have watched that movie.
I want to say. But like, he's most known, this was kind of the breakout one. He also did an episode of Black Mirror in
Never watched Black
2015.
Mirror.
And that was apparently a big one. Sorry, my camera is
I'd
acting
have to
up.
watch them again.
Yeah, I don't
Was it-
remember which episode it was, but he is in that. And then he's also Black Panther, Judas and the Black Messiah he was in.
Yeah.
Worked again with Jordan Peele in Nope a little bit later. So that was a pretty good one. But he's just, he is phenomenal in this movie. I cannot get over how good he is in this movie. And yeah, he had done, worked with Jordan Peele again, and but he's so good in this movie. He's also does some voice work in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse right towards the end of it. as Hobie Brown, or not towards the end of it. He's Spider-Punk. Hobie.
Yeah.
And he's great. And in this, he just nails it all the way through. There isn't a bad scene with him at all. But the whole cast is like that. I mean, everybody, like Keith Stanfield starts the movie off in an awesome opening for the movie and an awesome one-shot single take that they did, which, you know, there's a nice flex for somebody who's making their directorial debut, and he starts his movie off with like a 2-minute and 11-second long take of Lakeith Stanfield walking down a street, right? And I love the movements. I love the camera movement as the car drives by. So they do a synced pan with the car. It was really cool. Did anybody else get feeling of the neighborhood from Halloween where he was walking?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was kind of the small town.
Yeah.
Small town, mid America.
Because it's supposed to be, I guess the movie is meant to take place in New York and upstate New York, even though they shot it in Alabama. It's meant to be, because they talk about Andre, Lakeith Stanfield's character, being from Brooklyn. And he's mentioning being in a suburb, but taking the train. So the idea is that it's like upstate New York is where her family lives. But I really loved, I love that opening scene. And there's little things in there, filmmaking wise, that I noticed, especially because I watched this twice. And so he's walking down the street, he's talking to somebody on the phone, right? And then he hangs up the phone. We get the car driving by, turning around. And as I'm watching this, I'm like, this isn't going to go well for this guy when that car starts to turn around. And when he stops and he's just like, screw this, and turns around, starts walking the other direction, which is great. But when he starts to get out into the street, like he's going to cross the street, there's a really great moment right before the camera actually pans and you see the car has the door open, where the music that was playing from inside the car suddenly gets a little bit louder and a little clearer. And he's having the realization that the door is open before he sees that it's open. Like, oh, crap. And I love that. Like, that's such a small touch, but I love little things like that. And then to have the dude run up on him in a helmet and put him in a chokehold. I thought it was like a biking helmet, like a biker's helmet or like a driving helmet at first, because it's dark, it's hard to see. And then you find out later on it's like almost like a Knights Templar helmet, which I think is creepier.
Yes, very much so.
But Lakeith Stanfield in that scene is great, but then when he shows up again later in the movie is even better. When he shows up as Logan, and he's one of those guys that I'll watch in anything. Like, he's just phenomenal. But for having effectively 2 scenes in the movie that he's a part of, and he's great in both of them. Like, it was just awesome. And then the whole family is like that. Bradley Whitford, Allison Williams. Okay. Question. Faye, I'm gonna guess that you had plenty of suspicions about everybody the first time you saw this movie.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not going to say that I didn't, but what I was trying to figure out, like, I didn't trust the parents pretty much away. But
the girlfriend, I trusted for a little bit and then went, yeah, no.
Kind of, yeah. Rose, it was before her actual turn and reveal that I kind of picked up that she wasn't going to be who she said she was. But
yeah, she was trying too hard to keep him there. That's what tipped me.
Well, what had me going...
The pictures are what tipped me. The pictures were like, oh shit, yeah, no. Whoops.
What I wasn't sure about was,
no.
Is she in on it, or is she like hypnotized by her mom every time, and then they wipe that memory and she does it again? And even up to the pictures, I'm still like not 100% sure which direction we're going in. I knew it was one of those two. She's involved. It's a question of, is she involved against her will and the rest of the family's doing this thing, or is she just a crazy sociopath like them? And I was kind of like, I don't know. And then that moment where she pulls the keys out is it's such a great flip for her character, because she just pulls the keys out, her whole face changes, and right after that's when she puts her hair up and she wipes her bangs to the side and physically changes into a different person. And I loved that.
When I knew that she was just a sociopath, basically, is when she's sitting there eating the Fruit Loops and drinking the glass of milk. I was like, you don't trust people who drink full glasses of milk. That's just not something to do.
Her
Like, that whole
chances
scene
before
was
that.
just friggin' weird. I'm just saying.
Well, she reveals who she is before that, but that scene is really interesting because it's the whole, like, she's going to keep the cereal separate from the milk, which is a very strange way to take that in. On top of, I did watch a great thing. It was Jordan Peele going over fan theories for this movie, and somebody on Reddit had the fan theory of like, well, she's eating the colored cereal separately from the white milk and all this. And he's like, yeah, that's not very subtle. That's kind of what I was going for there. But she's so good and so convincing throughout the movie for most of it. And Faye, to your point, you're right. She does try a little too hard to keep him there. But then when she has the flip of like, fine, let's get out of here. That was the scene that had me questioning, all right, which direction are we going in? Is she knowingly part of this or not? Because that was the point where normally I feel like that would have been the scene where she reveals who she is, because that's intercut with the whole bingo thing going on in the auction for Chris. So like, I'm conditioned to think of that as being the moment where she's going to have her reveal, and she doesn't there. So that was why I just had that question. I'm like, okay, so which direction are we going in here? And I like the way they went with it, because I think it's a more compelling story if she is part of it. So, but Allison Williams is just great throughout. Everybody's Catherine Keener is Missy, the mom. I love the hypnosis scene. It's so well done when he comes in from outside. Because I wasn't, when she first calls him out and says, come on in and sit down and talk to me, I'm not thinking anything of it. Really. And even the part of it is like, well, this is also your girlfriend's mom. Like, you're going to try and sort of put your best face forward and go along with whatever she has to do. And it's like a third of the way into that scene, I was like, oh no, she's hypnotized him already. Like, he's already lost, and he doesn't even realize it yet. Right as she starts scraping that spoon around in the cup.
Yeah. That scrape, yes.
Well, it's meant to. It's meant to.
TSMR. TASMR. TASMR. That's too many letters now.
But
yeah, no, it's just, you want to strangle the person that's doing that.
You can't move. You can't move.
No, she means scraping the spoon on the bottom of the teacup.
Yeah.
Because I feel
but
that.
You're hypnotizing. You
Yes,
can't move,
that.
so you can't strangle them.
Yeah.
Aha.
Exactly.
Mm.
You're done. But that whole scene is great, and the way it ends, where she just says "sink into the floor," and he tries to fight it that one last time, and they modulated her voice just a little bit on "sink,"
Mm-hmm.
and then the image of him falling into the sunken place, and like that gave me chills the first time when she does that, because and part of it is that modulation, but it was just so well done. And yeah, it was a great scene. Bradley Whitford as Dean. Just giving him the tour of the house cracked me up, because he's laying it on so thick. So another great one of the fan theories was, and this was a lot of fun to watch the video of Jordan Peele, because he's reading it, and it's when they're walking past the basement, and the dad says, we had to seal that off because there's black mold down there. And somebody on Reddit was like, "Oh, black mold, like a black person being the mold to put another person's consciousness into." And Jordan Peele in the video kind of looks up and he's like, "Yeah, that's exactly what I was going
Kinda.
for. Perfect."
Are we sure he's not adapting these theories? And he's like, oh yeah, I definitely meant it that.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what he was doing. He's like, "Yeah, sure, that's
Yeah,
exactly
no,
what
that's
I
he was
meant."
doing.
Absolutely. But it's so like that whole. It's just the character of Dean laying it on so thick, right? Like he immediately starts talking about other people's cultures, and he shows them the picture of his grandfather, and you're just like, "All right, dude, I don't trust you at all, like not one bit." But the idea to
And yet that's how white people are.
well, and it was from what I was reading and listening to interviews with Jordan Peele and him talking about this movie, and he wanted it to not. He wanted it to be though the like white liberal looking people, because that's where some of it can be the worst, right? And so the way the
Well,
family,
not the worst, but just as bad.
in some ways worse, because it's under the veil of not being bad. It's disingenuous.
And I'm gonna say that the right side racism is always gonna be worse. I'm standing on that side.
I mean, it's not ever
History
going
comes
to be
falling.
better,
Yeah,
ever. Like it's not going to be the lesser
I just
evil. But it's the way to do it this way, where it's not the overt classic quote unquote racism. Because like the whole party scene, and Daniel Kaluuya talked about that scene and like how he's been in those situations and he's been at those parties, and that was a scene that was very effective for him because of having gone through that. And to have it sort of this thin veil of like, no, we like you. Oh no, we're fine with everything. There's the whole like the way Rose tells him in the apartment, oh, my dad would have voted for Obama for a third time, and then her dad says exactly that. Yeah, like they've practiced this, and we're using this, and you had all the people at the party. I did love that everyone at the party except for Logan and Daniel were wearing red. Everybody else at the party that was interested in the idea of the whatever process they were going through wore red. Daniel wore blue. Logan was wearing blue because like his hat had a blue band on it. And there were people that didn't have any red on them, and they were sort of neutral, like the Japanese man who was he was curious about it. He didn't have any red on. He was wearing all black. So it's kind of neat, like symbolism there, in that anybody that's interested in this process is wearing red, which I didn't think of the first time I saw it, but when I was watching it the second time, I noticed that. So I thought that was kind of cool. But you have like all this, and then here's Daniel in this uncomfortable situation, followed up directly by him running, talking to Stephen Root's character, Jim Hudson, the blind one. And that's great because now you're setting this up as like this guy's more of an ally because he's separate from everybody else, and he's kind of calling them out on what they're doing. And sort of a false, it's a red herring to make you feel a little bit more comfortable about him. And he's one of the worst because he not only is in on the whole thing, but he's in on the whole thing for the worst possible reasons because he just wants his eyes. He somehow thinks that the photography that Daniel can do will translate. Like it's his physical eyes that will do it, which I think is really weird.
Well, that and to be able to see again.
Sure, to be able to see again, but
yeah.
Well, because they're melding together, so there's always going to be a little bit of Daniel, and Daniel has the artistic eye, so it does kind of correlate there.
It does in a way, but it's pretty surface level because as he says to him, you're going to be a passenger. You're basically just going to be along for the ride. I'm going to be controlling everything.
But there's still pieces of him there.
But even like the other old man asking him about his golf game, at first blush, it sounds like just making small talk and like, this is the only thing I know how to talk about. But no, he's sizing him up to see if he's worth bidding on. because if he's any good at golf, well, I can turn you into a best golfer. Or Jeremy, the brother, talking about MMA and wanting to.
I hate the brother.
So he is a
Oh,
terrible,
the brother was.
terrible character.
Yeah.
Terrible
you-
human being.
You
too.
can tell by his mustache. So.
Oh yeah.
That's how you tell people are terrible.
Mhm.
Mustaches.
And the thing about him, so Caleb Landry Jones plays Jeremy, who I remember from X-Men First Class. He played Banshee in that.
Oh,
And
terrible.
and no, you're wrong
No,
there.
it wasn't.
X-Men First Class is good. So, but anyway,
I mean, this character.
but
Banshee.
Jeremy is such a terrible character. But the thing about him that is kind of interesting is he's the only one that really isn't trying to put up any kind of a facade. Like, he's not pretending to be super friendly. He's not really pretending like he's I mean, he even looks at the dad at one point and says, like, you had your chance. And it's meant, I think there's a lot of double meanings in what people say throughout this movie. And in that part, like, I read that as initially you can hear that and be like, yeah, you had your chance in the conversation. But really, he's talking more about, like, taking Daniel and using Daniel is what it felt like to me. But he doesn't sugarcoat anything. And that's right down to the way he collects people, which I like that. Jeremy's mode of collection is less pleasurable, I think is the way that it got framed.
Yep.
Well, I would say so. I mean, Daniel got to hook up with
Yeah.
Allison.
At least he
or
got, 4 or 5 months
Rose.
of what he thinks was a pretty good relationship before they were going to kill him, or, not kill him, but take his body over. But no, Jeremy, also you get Chekhov's jujitsu explanation, talking about how it's like chess and moving three moves ahead and all that. But I like too, when he goes around the table and he's getting ready to play fight with him, and Daniel's like, "Look, I make it a rule not to play fight with drunk people," which is a good rule, by the way.
Yeah,
it's a very good rule.
Totally.
And then when the mom scolds him and he backs away and he says, like, "Well, I wasn't going to hurt him." Again, the first time you watch it, it doesn't have the same meaning. When you watch it a second time, it's like, no, I'm not going to damage the goods. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And like everything dealing with his smoking is thinly veiled as like, we want you to be healthier and not smoke around our daughter. No, we just don't want you damaging your body because we're going to use it.
It gives them a way to put in for the hypnosis.
Yeah. Okay, Walter and Georgina, Grandma and Grandpa. They are
F those people.
amazing in this, though, because they are so damn creepy. Like Marcus Henderson's Walter, when there's that shot of him when he walks up on him chopping wood, and he turns around, and then the smile he gives, and the fact that like they're old people trapped in these bodies, so they don't know how to act like the young people, which is always, a joke, like, hey, fellow kids or whatever. They don't even know how to use the right terminology at all. They don't even fake it well. But his smile is so creepy. He gives him that smile and calls Rose what does he call her? A damn fine catch or something like that.
Oh yeah, he's pulling
She's
on
a
all
keeper.
the
Or something like that.
Yeah, keeper. That was what. A real damn keeper. And
Which is creepier when you know that it's Grandpa.
yeah. Yes, exactly. And when Daniel says to, or when Chris says to Georgina, I wasn't going to snitch on you, when she comes into the bedroom to confess that she was unplugging his phone, and she doesn't know what snitch means, but she knows tattletale.
Tattletale. Yes. That was a game show back when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
her smile is creepy as well.
Her, not me.
Yes, her smile.
Her smile is the creepiest thing.
Yeah. And this is
ever.
way before the movie smile. Let's face that. Yeah.
She's just like that scene where she's just like, no, and she's giving you this look while tears are streaming out of her eyes, it is one of like the most, even this time watching it, it's just like, that's chill.
So
There's just
It's
something.
the duality.
yeah.
It's horrible.
Well, and
Because
that's
you know it now. You know what it is now when you
Yeah.
watch it the second, third, fourth time.
when you watch it after the fact and you realize it's like it's two personalities fighting in there. It's just that for whatever reason, it seems like Georgina and Grandma had more difficulty taking than anybody else, right? Because like there's a scene where she comes out and pours the tea, where she sort of stops halfway through, and it almost seems again like the real Georgina is kind of about to surface, but then is pushed back down. And that's what I got from that no stuff was like, or even leaving that door open, because the little half door closet thing where he finds the pictures, that door kept getting left open, and I think that was like Georgina leaving that open, and then Grandma having to come by and sort of, Grandma was the one unplugging the phone and all of that. So yeah, she was, Betty Gabriel played Georgina, and she was so good. And that introduction to her, where they come into the kitchen, and the whole idea of, my mom loved her kitchen, so we keep a piece of her in here. And
Yeah, and then it pans to her.
yeah, it pans
Yeah.
to her, and she's just standing in the middle of the kitchen, not doing anything, just waiting for them. Freaking standing there like Hannibal Lecter. It was creepy.
Yeah, so many things you pick up on your second and third watches.
Yeah, it's
my favorite scene,
yes.
which we will call the get out scene, that is the second and third time, even now watching it, is just so much creepier than it was the first time. Like, so much. Just like when he walks up and he's just like, get out. And it's just like, oh my God, he wasn't trying to hurt him. He was trying to warn him.
Well,
There's
and
a warning.
so what's cool about that is you can read that scene in a couple of different ways too. Is he yelling "get out" at Chris to like get out of here before they get you? Is he yelling at the personality of Logan to get out of his head?
Yeah.
I took it as Daniel only because, his character, just because he was going towards him and looking at him.
Sure, and that is probably the most reasonable way that I would read it too. But you could, there is the possibility that he's yelling at the Logan personality that's inside him to get out as well. But I love the idea, the image of right after the flash goes off on his camera and you get his pupils, like you see his eyes and the light in there, and then as it slowly fades and the change in his face. Again, Lakeith Stanfield just so good as Logan, and then as Andre, just amazing. To have so little screen time but be so memorable in this movie is impressive. And yeah, that is a great scene. It really, really is.
Can I just point out, while you're talking about not being in this movie for a long time but being memorable?
Yeah.
The true stars of this movie for me, when he's talking to the blind guy for the first time there, in the background there's some people playing badminton or trying to play badminton.
Yeah.
They are the worst I've ever seen.
It is kind of on that level of like the guy in Quantum of Solace who's supposed to be sweeping the floor, and you can clearly see his broom is 1.5 feet off the floor of wherever he's supposed to be sweeping. Like, they were just like, yeah, do something in the background and no one's going to see it anyway. It'll be out of focus. And well, we know where your eyes went.
I can't not see that. That is just, no.
That's funny. The things that we look at and we latch on to. There was even little things like that whole party scene. So many things, there's the guy talking about golf. There's the woman who is like literally looking at him like a piece of meat. Like she's grabbing his arm. And what I didn't notice the first time, and I saw this the second time, is Rose looking at her and being like, stop, you're going too far. Like, and mouthing her name. Her name is Lisa. And you see Rose actually say Lisa to like stop her from whatever, path she's going down. And I never noticed that the first time. And when I'm watching it the second time, because I'm paying more attention to Rose, I see that and it's like, wow, that's a really subtle moment that, again, totally skates by you, but it shows who she really is. So that was interesting. I didn't know, for whatever reason, I partially had this spoiled for me in that it was really hard to avoid it if you do any kind of reading or watching on like top horror movies of the last decade and whatnot. This movie comes up a ton, so it was impossible to miss all spoilers. So I knew there was something to do with like personalities or consciousness getting transferred from one body to another. But for some reason, I thought that was like the hypnosis scene was going to be later in the movie. And so when it was in the first third of the movie or so, first half of the movie, I didn't expect that. So then I was like, okay, now I don't really know exactly where this story is going and how it's going to play out, which I really enjoyed because it was great. And it's an hour 45, I think, runtime. And it's an hour into the movie before it's revealed that the whole family is in on everything. And then it's like the last 20 minutes is when Daniel's trying to get away. But the pacing on everything is so good that I didn't even realize that. Like by the time Daniel's strapped to that chair, there's only like 20 minutes of the movie left. 20, 25 minutes, something like that. So then...
Get that lovely, lovely video.
That is so good.
I love that. Especially
Here's
the
what
ending.
we're
It's
going
like,
to do.
And so that was something that
Oh God.
I read was not part of the script originally, was to have that as a video, and he decided to do that later on. And it's even creepier that way, if you think about it, because they had to take the time to produce that video to show to their victims every time. And yikes, like these people are even more deranged than I thought. But it's such a good scene. The way he wakes up in the chair and then the TV just turns on and starts playing the video. Oh, it's so
I'd
good.
watch that sitcom. So.
And so then when he wakes up the second time and it's not a video, it's not a pre-recorded video, but Jim Hudson sitting there pre-op ready to have his operation. That also, because Stephen Root, like when I see Stephen Root, okay, are you all familiar with him?
Love Stephen Root.
So
He always pops up in cool things, though.
Wicked, what is the thing you think of him from? Like, what's the first thing that pops to your mind with Stephen Root?
Okay, so I know where you're going, but my first place is always this character he played in True Blood. But then I go to Office Space.
Okay. No, I hear actually a lot of people that have seen True Blood say that. So that's why I was curious. Because
It's a very short stint in that show. Like he's barely in a season, but like he's just such a memorable character.
he is a memorable character actor. Dread, do you remember him like specifically from anything? Or is he just sort of...
Well, I assume I've seen him in True Blood, and I don't remember him at all. So he's
Yeah.
not that memorable.
Remember he was the vampire that Lafayette used to,
He's the friendly one?
Yeah, he was the friendly one.
Oh, I remember him now. There you go.
Okay.
And then Jason and his stupid girlfriend at the time.
Because one that everybody thinks of him for is Office Space, right? They took his stapler.
Milton
in Office Space.
Okay.
He was also, as a voice actor, I always loved his part in Finding Nemo as Bubbles. Just because it was just such a silly character. Just the fish that screamed Bubbles. But he's incredibly funny. But then he'll do stuff like this. And he's downright sinister in this. And he can get really creepy. Because...
he's just a really good actor.
He really is. I also love him in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou as the blind radio guy. When they go when they go into the radio station and record I'm a Man of Constant Sorrow, he's the one running the radio station and he's blind in that. So he has a thing for playing blind characters too. And
Oh, he was in News Radio too.
yes, that's another one that I remember him from.
That's a good cast. I got to rewatch that show.
But he's just in this. He just is so creepy in that last scene. Part of it too, shaved head in a hospital gown. It's kind of it's a look. Let's put it that way. But the way he says stuff, and I did capture a little bit of audio. I'll play of him from that scene. But then to have, and of course, they do signpost it pretty well. But I love the way Chris gets out of the chair, or gets out of the whole situation with the cotton. And okay, all right. Give me your dissenting opinion. Go.
How he does, fine, but once he bashes that one guy's head in, well, not fully, half, he takes them out of his ears. There's still someone hypnotizing you there. Keep them in.
Yeah, but
he took care of that.
Logically, I get what you're saying. However, from a movie standpoint, you've got to have that moment of him pulling the cotton out of his ears and showing how he did what he did there.
Yeah. Sure, but as horror movie fans, we get mad at stuff like that.
But also, of course, obviously, very symbolic, right? Picking cotton is what saved his life. Which again, somebody said in the Reddit thing, and Jordan Peele's like, it's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
We had to build a custom chair just so he could have cotton there to pick. But I did like that. I thought that was a cool way to get out of it, because initially, up until he stood up, I'm thinking, oh crap, all right, so he's gonna fight him off when he gets into the wheelchair or something. And then when the camera pans with Jeremy over to the IV and he's checking that, I'm like, he put the cotton in his ears and didn't have to hear the sound, and he's faking. Brilliant. And now here's my problem. Dread, you said how he only half bashed his skull in with the bocce ball.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with the fact that he totally did, because the amount of blood that was coming out of Jeremy's head, there ain't no way he's getting up, let alone running around the house like that. I don't care how much adrenaline you got in you. So even though it did lead to a really great scene, the fight at the door, and he got to turn the... So
with the best sound as well.
Yeah. Whew, boy.
Squish.
He is brutal, is what that was. But also the way he takes out Dean with the deer head in kind of a reverse jump scare. I did enjoy this. I'm going to say this. There's only 2 moments like that where it's jump scares in the whole movie. They both involve deer, surprisingly. And I think they both work really, really well. Because the first one, the one where they're driving up and the deer hits the car, is the jump scare in the movie. And it worked because it didn't feel like it was cheaply done. It's a moment where they're actually having a conversation, and you could have had the scene without that, and the scene play out just fine. But to have that there, I thought I liked that one. Plus, it got me because big loud sound, and if you lived anywhere like I have, hitting deer is a real problem. The fact that there was no damage to the car other than the mirror hanging off of it is probably the least realistic part of that whole scene.
They got lucky.
That's a very strong windshield. There you go.
But
windshields are strong.
Yeah. But and that's another scene that plays completely different the second time you watch it, when you know about what he went through with his mom getting hit by a car, and here he is actually making the effort to go and see what's going on with this deer. It just seems like a slightly strange scene the first time I watched it, but the second time had a lot more meaning to it because it was really important, which is why I was like, wow, it's a cool looking shot with his, boot stepping off the road onto the gravel as he walks over. but it plays completely different after you kind of know his backstory. And then the second jump scare is the great shot of Dean like looking down one way in the hallway and turning and looking the other way, and then when he looks back, there's Chris running at him with the deer head and spears him with it. And I liked that a lot because Dean deserved much worse than what he got. Chris kind of goes,
My favorite character in the movie, I'm gonna say,
yeah.
Rod.
Oh, Rod's great.
That's it. He stole the show from me. He's like the best thing.
Well, because he
Love
is
that guy.
he is the every audience member
He's us.
ever. Yeah.
Not just that, but he's like us, like horror fans. Like he knows,
Mhm.
like you don't do that. These are the rules. You know the rules.
And you know
I
You
it's
was
shouldn't have
yelling
gone to
at
that house.
I know.
Never go. I told you not to go to that house.
He's great because, and this is Jordan Peele's comedy background coming into play, right? He knows
Mhm.
he knows to cast somebody for, because Rod is a comic relief character, but he's also an important character, and let him ad lib a lot of stuff, so it's very natural, very funny, and it also can play poignant with like the whole thing where he goes to the cops and he tells the cops about everything and they just don't
Right.
believe him at all.
That scene was great, by the way. Just
Yes.
her being like, just wait a bit. I'll
Just
be
a
right back.
second.
And I just cut to the other cops being there.
Yep. And they don't
Yep.
they don't buy his story one bit.
Ah.
Plus the whole thing of like being TSA and using his TSA skills and his detective skills. There was a different ending to the movie because after Daniel gets out, I do like, again, foreshadowing of the I don't want to get chased off the property with a shotgun. And then sure enough, he gets chased off the property with the gun. Rifle, but as Jordan Peele said, having him say chased off the property with a rifle just didn't work well. Like, it would have felt forced. So that's why he wrote it as shotgun, even though they were using a rifle. But are you familiar with the alternate ending for this? Anybody?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Which Faye, which ending do you prefer?
The theatrical.
Okay. Wicked, how about you?
Theatrical.
Dread?
Yep. Same.
I do too, but I like
It's a
it's a much happier ending, first of all.
Mhm.
Like I do like the alternate ending. I think it's an interesting
Yeah.
ending to go with. It's a
It's
much
too realistic.
It is too realistic.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Which was, I mean, as that scene is playing out, which that end scene on the road is great. When he hits Grandma with the car as he's leaving the property, and he's sitting there and he's like,
Yeah.
don't do it, don't do it, don't get up. But he can't. Like, he can't just leave her there. It's like it's a thing. So he gets her in the car, and then of course she freaks out at him and they crash. But then, you know, Grandpa finally got to run someone down. And
again.
that was a great one where that was another one where Jordan Peele had said, yeah, I had for a while in the script after he tackled him was going to have Walter say, I finally beat you, Jesse. And he's like, that was just too much. I couldn't leave that in there. So he took that line out. But to have Grandpa run him down and then they bring back the flash, the camera flash to jolt him out of it. Because Chris is a really smart character, right? He figures things out and he remembers what people say. He doesn't make dumb decisions, which is kind of nice to see in a horror movie like
Yep.
this. Because he remembers, like, he picked up on, you know, Jeremy's tells in their fight as he's got him in the chokehold and used that against him. And he remembered what happened with the camera flash and was able to use that as well. You know, even
That's part of his life.
yeah,
He's got to be one step ahead and smarter than, because that's like when they get pulled over and the officer asks for the ID and she's just like no, because like she has the power and the privilege to be able to do that, and he's just like,
well, yeah, he
"I'm just gonna give
immediately
him
is
my
getting his
like
ID
that
out.
thing.
Yeah, he's getting
He
his
does
ID.
the smart thing.
Yep. Which there's another scene that very, very different when you think about it. She wasn't sticking up for him because
No,
it was the right thing
she
to
was
do.
preventing him from being known.
Yeah, she just didn't want a paper
Exactly.
trail. Which then makes me wonder, are there reports of people going missing in the area, especially young black men? So is that cop in any way like thinking about that?
There were the missing posters at the was that the police center when
Was that what that?
Yeah.
Okay.
the comic relief? Yeah.
So
They had like a bunch of posters somewhere. Yeah.
So it's
That's creepy.
it's possible.
Oh, wait a minute. The pictures at the end when she has now hung up all the pictures that were hidden in the closet.
Yes. Which
She's a friggin' psychopath.
that was another one. She had said in an interview somewhere, it might have been on like a panel talking about the movie or something, where she would have so many people come up to her asking if Rose really was in on it, or wasn't she hypnotized by her mom or something. And Allison Williams is like, no, she's crazy. Are you kidding me? She put all the pictures up of all the men, like at the end of it. She's nuts.
Cuckoo bananas.
Yeah.
Very
And she
much
was
so.
going through NBA pictures to pick out the next person.
Yeah, which one of them was Keegan Michael Key, by the way.
Yeah.
I did like that. But yeah, she was already on to her next victim. And I love the way the ending plays out, because he starts, after Walter shoots her and then sadly shoots himself, which totally could see that coming. But she tries to get the gun back. Chris takes it away from her, and then she immediately goes back into the whole, I'm sorry, it's me. She's playing him again, trying to,
I love you.
yeah, which of course you don't buy whatsoever, and he didn't buy it. But he couldn't kill her.
I mean, she was enjoying it. So
Yeah. She was disappointed when he let go. She was like, wait, you don't want to choke me?
And
Aw.
part of that, I
also
feel like,
creepy face.
oh, very creepy. That,
Creepy.
yeah, no, that face.
She's
gonna stick
great
with
at
me.
that.
She's phenomenal in this movie. Like, she really is. If it wasn't for Daniel Kaluuya, she would be the best thing in the movie. He's just that little bit better than her throughout it. But I also think part of that was he talked about not, how bad he felt leaving his mother to die cold and alone, and how horrible that was for her. And so I sort of read a little bit of like, that's what he was doing to Rose at the end.
I feel like the mom, when hypnotizing him, kind of like inflamed the bad feelings that he had about that too.
Oh yeah.
Like, because the way she said it, she was like, you did nothing. You didn't do anything. And it was like, holy shit. You know how many scars, how many scars have healed over for this poor kid to be able to live his life?
Yeah. And
I don't
then,
even want to think about it.
it's funny because as bad as, like, all of that family are terrible, all four of them, and they're all really, really awful in different ways. And she comes off as the most sincere. Her and Rose come off as the most sincere, right? Because she's apologizing for Dean. Dean's like laying it on super thick and going with, my man, and all these slang terms he keeps using just makes him sound whiter. And she's sitting there apologizing for him and all of that. And then she turns right around and hypnotizes him. And you're right, just opens up all that trauma again, plus putting him in the sunken place, which was a really cool visual. I very much liked the way that was.
Agreed.
But that ending, when the police lights and the car, and all you're getting is the lights reflecting off of Chris as the car pulls up. And I mean, my initial thought was like, all right, well, now he's getting arrested because, he's sitting there choking out this white girl and has just killed the whole family and burned the house down. So he's going to get arrested. And that's how I thought the movie was going to end until the airport and Rod is standing there.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's ridiculous, but I love it anyway. It's the best way the movie could end.
It subverted the trope.
It really did.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Detective work.
And
He
it's
hunted him down using his TSA skills.
TSA on this.
and to be honest, like even though it had like this lighthearted ending, it wasn't necessarily happy because we don't actually know what happens after this.
That's
Who
true.
knows? Maybe the cops never know who he is and he just doesn't even like do anything. Or maybe they find him and he has to be prosecuted. Like we just don't know. Maybe Rose isn't really dead.
They're never gonna find him because remember, TSA handles things.
Yeah.
TS Melon Farmer.
TS, yeah.
Melon Farm A. Jordan Peele was asked before by if like Universal ever wanted him to do a sequel, and he's like, yeah, of course. Right after the movie came out and it did well, they wanted a sequel. And he has said he's open to the idea of it, but it would have to be done right. He wouldn't just make a sequel to make a sequel. And I'm glad that so far he hasn't, and that he said that. The movie doesn't need a sequel. I don't need like...
Yeah, I don't even know how you would do one unless it's another part of the family.
The only way would be like other people involved. But then the question is, well, how many people were involved in the first place and how big does that get? And it could be really unruly pretty quickly. So
At least he has a title already. Like, just when I got out, they pull me back in.
Got Out. Yes, that'll be the sequel, Got Out. I like that.
Or Get Out Again.
So Monica, you mentioned your favorite scene being the Get Out scene with Lakeith Stanfield, the camera flash and all that, where and at one point he looks straight at the camera and is kind of coming at it too, which is always disorienting. Faye, you got a favorite scene in the movie?
Not really. I mean, it's all kind of equal. There's nothing that really pops out to me.
Okay.
I mean, there was the talking with the blind guy that was like, oh, this guy's actually really nice. He's buttering him up. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, a couple scenes later, that one all falls apart. But I do love that because, like I said earlier, you get this feeling like he is an ally. He's actually not a terrible person. Nope, never mind. He is.
Yeah, I didn't see him as an ally, more of somebody as neutral. But then, yeah.
Well, in that situation, he was an ally because he's like, they're all idiots. They're ignorant. They don't know what they're doing. Sit down and talk with me. I know you, or at least I know who you are, and I'm not going to treat you like they are. Dread, how about you? Do you have a favorite moment or favorite scene in the movie?
Well, I'm gonna mention two because one I already mentioned, which is the police station scene where she just says, "I'll be right back," and it just cuts to two other people living there.
Yeah,
just so good and funny. But probably the hypnosis scene because that just goes on, and you can see him like just making fun of it, being yeah, sure, and he's answering some innocent questions. But then you see his face change, basically. But he keeps just replying, but his face changes, and then it just ends in "I can't move," and they just zoom in on it, and you can see
the
like
way
the sweat.
She says it back to him too. Like he says, "I can't move." She's like,
move.
"You can't move."
Oh, and you can just see
there's
the
just
fear.
Something about that's just like
that whole scene is so great because, like I said, it starts off innocent. And you kind of get drawn in. And like I said, it's, he's sitting down with his girlfriend's mom who's scolding him for being a smoker and all this. And then as the scene keeps going and you realize, oh, she's already started hypnotizing him. He doesn't realize it. And then, oh no, she has hypnotized him. And you see like him struggling at the chair. And we know almost before he does that he can't move. And then to have it end the way that it does with the sunken place and that idea of as he's falling, that TV screen of reality of what his point of view is keeps getting smaller and smaller as it fades away. And then to wake up from that and not really remember what happened and it be like this weird dream.
Because then, like, if you watch the movie multiple times, you're seeing every view of what's taking place, like the outside and the inside. And that's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys have mentioned some great ones. I'm going to mention two others that I really liked, which is when they pull up to the house the first time and they drive past Walter, and she mentions, you know, the groundskeeper, whatnot. The next shot is the car pulls up in front of it. They get out, and we stay in a wide shot. And normally, in a lot of movies, when there's a meeting of people for that first time, and like especially the trope of taking your boyfriend or your girlfriend to meet your parents, you always get the close-ups and all the coverage and everybody giving the hugs and all that kind of stuff. And we stay wide the whole time, and in fact panning back further and further, staying away from everything. I love the way that's framed because it just keeps going. You're hearing all the dialogue, you're hearing it like you're right on the porch, but the visual never gets any closer to it. And so the first time we meet Dean and Missy, we don't even see their faces. They're just little dots off in the distance. And then the very next shot, as they go into the house, flips 180 degrees, but the camera still stays away from them. It's at the back part of the house and sees them coming in the door. And then as they move into the next room, the camera pans itself side to look through another doorway. I just love the way that was all framed, because it gives you this weird discordant feeling. Like it's not what you're accustomed to in a movie when characters are meeting each other for the first time. So I really love that. And then when Chris does go outside for a cigarette in the middle of the night, and he gets out there and the music changes, and we had that weird forced perspective, like dolly move as Walter is in a dead sprint running directly at him, is such a cool shot, because it's just so unnerving to sit there and watch Walter just booking hardcore at this guy, and the dolly move on top of that to really mess with your perspective, and then he just turns at the last second, and it's like, okay, so that's just,
I remember that.
Yeah, it's Grandpa.
I was gonna say that.
It's Grandpa basically just trying to get faster. Now that he has his new body, he's just out every night sprinting, trying to improve his time. That became a bit of a challenge. They called it the Get Out Challenge. You'd have, and I think there was a movie set where people were doing that, where they'd have different actors come running at them and then at the last second turn away.
That sounds horrible.
Kind of. But what were you going to say about it?
I was going to say that I remember that, like, as you're talking about it, I'm remembering that from the trailer. Like, that was, like, one of the scenes that they showed. So, I at least remember that now. It's starting to come back to me from before watching the movie.
But yeah, it's like that type of stuff, it works because it's strange perspective, and it messes with you when somebody's coming straight towards the camera, on top of adding in the kind of dolly move, the dolly zoom to it. So he's coming at you, but it doesn't feel quite right. So that was one that I really, really liked. The whole movie is just so damn good all the way through. But I did capture some audio.
Yay!
There's some good audio moments for this. So, so many lines in this movie have double meaning in them. So many that I couldn't capture all of them, but this one was early on, and I love this when this is in the apartment. Which the second time I'm watching it, the very first shot of Rose when she's in the bakery looking at all the pastries and whatnot, and she's got like just the grin and the kind of crazy eyes. I'm like, oh, this suddenly looks a lot different now than it did the first time, where it just felt like, oh, she, you know, how cute, she's getting them pastries. But then when they get inside and he's packing and she's talking to him, and she says this. And she says that to the dog. I got to pry something out of your dad.
I didn't hear that.
Nope.
No?
No.
Nope.
Huh. That's weird.
We could hear it in the before the show started, I remember.
We'll try it again.
You gotta pry something out of your dad.
Okay.
Yeah. she calls him his dad.
Which is great, but like, I got to pry something out of your dad. And the first time you're watching it, I took it as like, oh, I got to get info out of him. You know, he's bothered by something, but no, she also literally wants to pry something out of him, like the top of his head. So I liked that. I I mentioned this one, but it shows the level of what they're going through and how much they stage this stuff. When she says to him,
My dad would have voted for Obama a third time if he could have.
and she says that, and one of the first things, Dad says to him is,
By the way, I would have voted for Obama for a third term if I could. Best president in my lifetime, hands down.
like, geez, Dean, just, ease off the throttle a little bit. Like, laying on a little too thick there.
That's like a joke. It's like I've heard that joke in other things.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like the way that like white people will be complacent with their,
Yeah.
with the problem of systemic racism and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Some of my best presidents are black.
But here, yeah, exactly. Some of my favorite. But I love that it's Bradley Whitford because,
Yeah.
all of the West Wing stuff and whatnot.
Yeah,
It's just really funny.
I know he was in that. I haven't seen West Wing, but I know he is a big part of West Wing. So, then there's again Rose, when she, and this is early enough in the movie that I'm still believing her as like not getting why her parents are acting the way that they are, and then she says this:
How are they different than that cop?
because they're not. But that's her. Obviously, she's still playing Chris and really laying it on there. But I'd like that moment. This.
I don't want to get chased off the lawn with a shotgun.
It's okay. It won't be a shotgun. It'll be a bolt action rifle. It's fine. Totally different. The dinner scene, and just Rose says to her brother,
You realize you're coming off as like the world's biggest douchebag right now, right?
yes, he is. And he's got the mustache to prove it.
That he does.
Because it's not really a mustache. He's got to wipe the dirt.
A terrible human being.
No, it is not.
The worst.
He just has that. He has that patchy facial hair. He never combs his hair. It's always like a mess. He just doesn't care. He doesn't care at all. And he is a terrible person. I mentioned this line earlier, but it's a good one.
That's the basement. We had to seal it up. Some black mold down there.
Which, I mean, it's a perfect way to keep people out of your crazy, weird torture dungeon / surgery room with candles. The candles were a bad idea, is all I'm saying. That burned his house down.
Mm-hmm.
And wood paneling, too. I liked so after the moment with Logan and that whole scene of Get Out, and then we cut to him coming out of the mom's office after she's done her hypnotism thing and put him back, quote unquote, correct. Then the dad mentions bingo, and that's a scene where, again, in the first time I'm watching it, it just felt like she doesn't want to have anything to do with what's going on, so she's going to get Chris and get out of there. But no, she's got to keep him away from the bingo so he doesn't see what's going on.
The quietest bingo game ever.
So they go, and during their conversation, when I love this line from Chris.
Like you've met Logan before?
No, I don't know Logan. I knew the guy that come at me.
I don't know Logan, but I knew the guy that came at me. That was, I love that a lot. This one says want to. I don't know what want to is. So here we go.
Nothing I don't want to be doing.
Oh, right. Walter.
Nothing I don't want to be doing.
All right. Creepy dude.
Creepy. Yep.
You can stop with the crazy smile, maybe. Just ease back on the nuts there, Grandpa. I got 3 clips of Stephen Root, and they're all from that last scene of his over the TV screen, but I just loved them. One is when he's talking to Daniel about kind of what's going on, and he has a realization that Daniel doesn't really care about anything he has to say, and it's just...
You could give a shit, right?
Which...
Yep.
I just liked that. Oh, this was from their first conversation. I'm sorry. This was right at the end of it.
Shit ain't fair, man.
Oh, you got that right. Shit ain't fair.
And it's not going to get any fairer. But
Not
then
for
finally,
him.
no. The creepiest, for me, creepiest probably moment in it. I think it's this line delivery from Stephen Root.
I want your eye, man. I want those things you see through.
Ugh. It's just so creepy. Probably doesn't help that it's over the TV, so you got the TV buzz in there too. That cathode ray buzz. And the shot was so up close that you could see the individual television pixels. And it was one of those old TVs, so you could see each individual little red, green, and blue segment. And I couldn't go through this movie without capturing at least one bit from Rod. So
Yay!
I got one Rod bit for you. And this was right at the beginning when he's talking to him on the phone and he's complaining about how he got chastised or something for patting down an old lady.
Yeah.
And then he says this.
See, wait. I know you laughing.
But I'm serious, man. The next 9/11 is gonna be on some geriatric shit.
Mm-hmm.
That was Rod is great. I could have captured a lot more Rod, but he's worth watching the movie for.
Honestly, you should have wasted your one F-bomb on his last line. That would have been worth it.
I mean, I probably could have. Yeah, because it's that good. Rod's great, and he really elevates his scenes, because that whole scene in the police department is funny enough, but he just makes it even better because he's so sincere, and he really does care about his friend.
Yep.
But no, this is
Gotta have those friends.
Yeah, you really, really do. This is just a fantastic movie. I'm glad I finally watched it. I'm kind of mad that it took me so long to watch it, but man, for a directorial debut and first movie he wrote, and the guy wins an Oscar for it. It is awesome that he won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. It's sad that he was only the 5th Black writer to be nominated. Because I think that's just wrong. But it's awesome that he won that. He could have, again, just like Daniel Kaluuya for Best Actor, he was up for Best Director, Jordan Peele was, but he was also up for Best Director against like Guillermo del Toro for The Shape of Water. And it kind of felt like almost like a lifetime achievement for del Toro in a way. But I mean, this movie was up for like 4 Oscars and it won Best Original Screenplay. Just impressive for your first film. So now it just makes me want to watch more Jordan Peele stuff, because I haven't seen Us or Nope.
There
I
you
need
go.
to see both. So I'm going to be doing that because, damn it, this was that good.
Guess you'll have to wait a year. I mean,
No.
Well, now that we've done this here, we can do this on the other show.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. No, but this was great. Thank you. Thank all of you for coming along on this with me and getting me to watch this one. But I'm glad that we all really enjoyed it too. I think this is kind of, I don't like the term elevated horror. I think I've talked about that before on this show and on Gore.
Someone's gonna kill you.
Huh? Yeah, I hate that term.
I don't like the term because it makes it seem as though other things are beneath it. But
yes, so I don't use the term.
But what I would say is that this is there isn't camp involved in this movie, even though like Rod obviously is very funny, but it's not campy. And it also has a very good story and message behind it that obviously plays a lot different depending on your socioeconomic demographic. But I love the fact that a movie like this gets made and can get messages like that out there and get people at least thinking about some of that kind of stuff. And I want to see more stuff from young directors. I want Jordan Peele to be what is the word I'm looking for here? Inspiring other young directors and young creators, especially creators of color and marginalized groups, to do more projects like this, because obviously it can be done, and he's really good, and I want to see more stuff like this. I also like that Blumhouse was the production company behind it. They have been putting out overall pretty good stuff, so it's just really cool to see, and I like that. So thank you guys for watching this with me, and thank you everybody for listening in. If you enjoy this show and you enjoy our conversations, we all do a show together about horror movies. Wicked, you want to tell them about that? Yeah.
Yes, we do a podcast called Gore. It comes out about twice a month or bi-monthly or whatever way you want to say it. And you can check out all of that stuff at gorepodcast.com. You can find episodes, what movies we've covered, links to all of our social media and whatnot, and well, just everything. Everything.
Yeah, we just put out an episode that came out on Friday the 13th about Friday the 13th. That's one of our fun things to do every year.
Somebody has impeccable timing and planning on that or something. I don't know.
So definitely gorepodcast.com. If you like this conversation we're having tonight, there's a little different structure to that, and we have our fun little list of 13 favorite tropes and silly things in horror movies. We also do talk about upcoming stuff, horror movies, books, games, things like that. It's a great show, and we have a lot of fun doing it. This show I record every Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, live at twitch.tv/tvstravis, and it comes out as a podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, including YouTube on Wednesdays. And you just search for Wait You Haven't Seen, or go to tvstravis.com, and you can find the links for all of that there. There's also links for the Patreon, which is patreon.com/WYHS. For as little as $1 per episode, you can support this show and other projects that I do. Get access to my Discord monthly movie nights, as well as first looks at certain projects as they come available. So you can find all that at tvstravis.com. And we're all back next week. October's not done. And we love horror anthologies. So we're going to do another horror anthology next week. And it's...
that I hope everybody likes.
Well, we'll see. It's Tales of Halloween. I have not seen this one before, so this will be my first time watching it.
Same.
Oh, good. At least I'm not the only one.
As long as I get Fae to like it, I'll feel like I won. Or at least like one of the pieces of it.
Well, if you want to know how that all turns out, you'll have to come back next week and listen to the episode as we talk about Tales of Halloween. I cannot wait. Wicked, where can people find you other than Gore Podcast?
Oh, you can follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and Blue Sky at WickedKitten13.
Excellent. Dread, how about you?
Easiest is just to go to thedreadzone.com and you'll find linkages to all my linkages.
Linkages to all your linkages. Perfect. Faye?
On Twitter at ChibiFaylin.
Perfect. And I'm on all the socials as TV's Travis. So until next week in Tales of Halloween, thank you guys for being here. Let's do it again. I can't wait. I love horror anthologies. I think it's a great way to do horror stories. Short stories always work so well, so I'm looking forward to this one. But until then, remember to enjoy your movies. This has been Wait You Haven't Seen. Let's be excellent to each other.
I mean, I told you not to go in that house.
That was still a good one.